Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this webinar about driving maintenance excellence and asset management with Marcadus. Especially welcome to everybody that's visiting the DAG webinar week. Welcome to the session. We will give other participants 1 minute or less to join the session, so please stay with us until everybody is here before we start the presentation. All right, I expect that most of the people at the moment are in. Let's start then. As you can see in the screen, we have a Q&A session planned at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions for us, please note them down in the Q&A window, and we will come back to that at the end of the session. Also, I think it's good to know that the webinar is being recorded, so everybody that signed up will get the link to the recording. So yeah, you can also share it with other colleagues that weren't able to join today. All right, so let's start. Today, we're talking about the Plant Maintenance Navigator, which is our solution for asset management and maintenance management, and especially built for the asset-intensive industries. Today on the agenda, we have three main topics. First of all, understanding the context, so what we think is asset management and maintenance is all about. Then we prepared a demonstration of what our app is doing, and we will go through an entire use case to show you what our solution can do. And then we have the next steps. So if you're interested, how can we get in contact with each other? And as said, we then have some time for Q&A. I'm here not alone today. So I'm here with my colleague Tom, who will do the demonstration. He is solution expert of our app. My name is Jan-Peter, and I work as a lead consultant here at Marcadus. What is then Marcadus? Marcadus is an innovative Celonis partner since 2016, so we go a long way already. We have our services in three pillars. First of all, we do end-to-end services, so help you with implementation of Celonis and helping grow Celonis within your organization. We have our own solutions, being the Plant Maintenance Navigator and the Field Service Navigator, and we are also familiar with connecting info systems towards Celonis. But here today, we are for the middle pillar, being the maintenance solutions. And before we start about context, I'm really keen to hear what is the current biggest challenge in your organization about asset management and maintenance. So please take your time to fill in the poll. Multiple answers are possible. I'll give you 1 minute for it. And I'm really keen to see what pops up so that we can hopefully discuss this within this webinar. Options that you have is limited visibility into maintenance cost. We have too many unplanned or corrective interventions. We have answer C, low schedule adherence, plan versus execution. We have option D, inefficient use of resources of our workforce. Option E, difficult collaboration between technical and operational teams. And answer F, lack of end-to-end visibility of maintenance process. So please fill in your answers. And I cannot see if the answers are coming in. Can you see that? Well, I think also looking to time, I think it's good to see what the outcomes are. So we have a great winner, I would say. So 100% goes for the limited visibility into the maintenance costs. Now, costs are rising. We see that also. So I think it's a valid point. And let's see if we did some research in this field. Let's see how other maintenance managers, asset maintenance managers are looking towards this. So managers in the plant maintenance domain face challenges in cost. Well, we also saw that in the poll, people and effectiveness. So if we look to productivity in plant maintenance, 62 of the respondees of this survey, which is a response of 100 managers in the field, say that the cost of maintenance are rising higher than inflation levels. So it's looking to the cost of your entire company and to your production cost. Maintenance is growing significantly. Also, with attracting the right people to execute the jobs, 73% have difficulties getting the right people there. Even more, if we look to time spent on preventive maintenance, which I think preventive or even predictive maintenance is the industry best practice to keep control about your maintenance in your production process, we see that even the top performers do not meet the industry best practices for preventive maintenance. So here is a really big gain to get control of this. However, it's not really strange that it is difficult to manage this process. The key is to master business critical capabilities in a complex system and process landscape. How does this landscape look like? If we look to asset management and maintenance, we see that there are various systems. So we have the ERP system, we have the MES systems, we have SCADA systems, and other, where all information coming in about the status of your assets, but also the work being done there. There we have capabilities that are very important to manage. I will highlight some of them. So we have the work order processing and prioritization. Well, that's partly what our demo is about. We have the spare part strategy and MRO optimization, and we have the bad actor identification, so you can identify how can I perform better over all assets. And these are use cases, but as said, the process landscape is also quite difficult. And I think that's a really strong point why we're here today and why we work together with Celonis. So looking to key insights, how is maintenance operations affecting asset uptime? How do delays in material procurement and logistics affect maintenance schedules? Those are answers that are not only resist in the maintenance process. They are shared over other related processes. And the only way to really cope or manage or be optimizing this process is to also include the knowledge that we have in those processes, to have a further look forward on what we can expect in our maintenance and asset management. So this is the context, and let's get now a little bit with which kind of vision we build our solutions. So we looked on what are more focus areas. Well, we think for tackling this process and using our app, we look to maintenance operations, we look to supply chain, we look to procurement, we look to spare parts, and we look to IT. Then we checked what are the business challenges. Well, that's aging equipment and reliability, unplanned downtime, resource management, data management, and compliance and safety, which are very important for these industries. And this brought us to the business objectives, which are really the DNA of our app. We focused on asset reliability, improve asset reliability and just equipment uptime, increase operational effectiveness, such that work orders are executed on time and according to the schedule to minimize the impact on production, labor productivity. As said, the pool of technicians is not too big, so we really want to do that we do the right work at the right time. We have the reduction of maintenance costs, such that we do not have unnecessary expenses related to work orders, optimize work orders, do work order bundling, but also do preventive maintenance instead of corrective maintenance. And last but not least is being compliant, such that it's not only doing the most efficient way, but also do it safe, both for people, both for environmental, and adhere to the regulatory standards. And that brings us to the solution. So we built the Plant Maintenance Navigator, which is a solution suite where a lot of apps come together, and that we did together with Celonis. So we as Marcadus, we bring in the domain knowledge about maintenance, we know the use cases, we build the apps, we build the data models, and the improvement logic to turn process insights into operational actions. And that we couldn't do without Celonis, which is a real-time process intelligence platform and enables us to do the complex process analysis and orchestration. Talking about the process intelligence platform, it looks as follows. We, on the bottom, have our data sources. And then we have our process knowledge of objects and events, where we map the data into it, such that we get a graph of these objects and events. Then on top, we put a lot of process knowledge, so that our business definitions, that are logics for on time, and that brings us to a shared knowledge base. And on top of that, we can use consumers, data consumers, that can help you and your staff to analyze what's happening in the process, but also to execute it. So the apps are really the dashboards where you can visually see what's going on. The Process Adherence Manager is to check where you can do with your design process, how in control and how compliant am I. You have the automations where, or orchestrated or with action flows, we not only can let you show what should be done, but we can also, with a click on the button, or really automatically change that in your source systems. We have, of course, AI. So our data is available as context for all AI initiatives in your organization. And we have external integrations, such that not the data is only captured in Celonis, but we can share with other applications and make it widely available within your organization. Then looking to the consumers that we built, we make a split in two. So we have, on one hand, the analytical apps that helps you to understand what's going on. That is especially built for your process analysts, your business analysts, to understand what's happening in this process and where can I improve. And then we have a set of operational apps, and those apps are not meant to be there and watch, but really to be day-to-day usage for your employees in the process to take the best actions or do this automatically. So let's first start with analytical apps. As analytical apps, we have two main drivers. We have our starter kit, which is the starting point of this of our apps, I would say. So the starter kit is really the X-ray, what happens in my process. But it goes further than that. So if we see an anomaly that happens in your process, we can directly say to you, based on best practices, what would be the best next action to cope with that? Would it be doing an automation? Would it change something in your ERP system? Or would it be installing another app that's part of the solution suite? And starter kit will also be part of the demo. We also have co-pilots where your employees can ask Celonis, what happens in my process? What's happening with this work order? Where should I improve? What is my biggest cost driver? So these are really built to understand what's going on. Then we have our executional solutions, and that helps to structurally improve performance on a specific part of the process. So these are really use case driven. We have a set of them, and they can really help each other next to each other. So we have their operational apps, which is again a dashboard view, but really operational. So if your employees start up the notebook in the beginning of the morning, this should be the first way to look at that, saying, hey, where are my work orders or where are my assets at risk? As said, we have action flows and orchestration engine, both helping you to run automations, to not do everything by hand, but really help to do that automatically and smarter. And last but not least, we have the co-pilots. But this is not you ask a system, but these co-pilots are really built to integrate with your, let's say Teams, let's say Zoom, let's say Slack, to inform you about something going wrong, such that you don't need to go to the dashboard all the time, but if there are high-level alerts, they come to you. So I said that the operational apps is a set of apps that work together. What we have currently is the Open Work Order Management app, which will also be demoed. We have a debrief analyzer where we can read free text and set up next best action based on what your technicians in the field are mentioning in their comments. We have an asset health and performance optimization where we really identify bad actors and reliability trends to focus on maintenance efforts. We have the asset material spend optimization. So we look in all your assets, what's coming in if you look at spare parts and costs, and how can we optimize that. And then we have two apps on the bottom, the bill of material optimization that really helps us for if you have an asset, a bill of material of an asset, and new parts are being installed to automatically update that or provide tasks for your planners to do so, and the work order task list optimization. So the bottom two are really to update your master data such that your systems are in sync with what you're executing in the field. That brings us to the fun part. As said, some of these assets and solutions I already mentioned will be live demoed, and therefore I would like to give the stage to Tom.
Thank you, EP. Yes, welcome everybody, and we'll be presenting our demo in our demo environment. But first, before I do so, I will introduce some of the personas, which will talk through the demo. So first of all, the main thing, our app is really a solution for your maintenance process. So solutions are there for everyone within the organization. So for all functions, there are solutions which they can use to help improve their maintenance process. So first of all, we have Anna, which is our maintenance VP. Well, she wants insights in the overall process performance against set targets. And there, really the main point is to have an overview of improvements that are happening or could be started. Then we have Stefan, our process analyst, really interested in the analytical part of our solution and really looking for execution gaps in the end-to-end process and possible ways to solve those. And then also we have Leah, the maintenance planner. So really on the operational level, she wants to be able to close maintenance tasks based on the latest and most recent information. So with those personas, I will go into our demo environment and share that with you. So I think the screen should be visible. Yes, all right. Just waiting a second for it to load for everyone. But what we see here is the process intelligence graph. And I think it's very similar to the slide that my colleague just showed to you. Because at the bottom here, you see all the different source systems that we can use in our solution. And this is not the exhaustive list. So if there's any additional source systems, we can connect those as well. But what you see here is that there's a lot of different source systems, Databricks, SAP, but also at the right-hand side, PDF documents, so more unstructured data, all coming into Celonis and giving us information regarding our work order process. Scrolling to the top a bit, because there you see the objects that we're tracking in our solution. So on top, you see the work order. That work order has a maintenance notification. It has work order tasks. On the work order, we also have a permit, of course, that we're tracking in our solution. But also on the right-hand side, we have more of the procurement, of the purchase order processes, more the supply chain information. So there you already see we're not just looking at work orders, we're looking at more processes to improve the maintenance process as a whole. And then what's happening on those objects. So the work order is an object, and we have all kinds of events on there. So we track when the work order is created, when it's scheduled, when the tasks are created. All that information we use to determine how is the process functioning, how well is it functioning, how efficient, and where are possible improvements that we see in the data. Then scrolling to the top and opening the KPIs, because on top of all those objects and events, we also build a lot of logic in our app already. So the moment you connect your source systems to our app, a lot of logic comes with it, and there's already a lot of information for you visible, and also a lot of use cases that are ready for you to use. So for example, we're tracking the on-time completion, the preventive maintenance rate, and the maintenance cost, which are the most important objectives or KPIs that we're tracking in our solutions. But on top of that, we also already have some logic, for example, regarding the material identification optimizer, regarding prioritization of work orders, but also how to optimize maintenance cost. So by connecting your source system to our solution, a lot of pre-built logic and use cases are coming with it. And in this demo, I will take you through one of those use cases. Then going to the next screen, which is the control tower. This is really the high-level overview for of our solution. So here you really see what are my main objectives. So we have the on-time completion again, the preventive maintenance, and the maintenance cost. And there you see in one snapshot how they're performing. So in this screen, we already see for the on-time completion, well, the on-time completion rate is only 42%, which is quite low. But we also see that the industry benchmark is 82%. So there we see at one side, all right, this is already something that we want to investigate, where we want to have a further look. Below that, you see the development over time. So here you also see a strong indicator that not much has happened recently, at least not much improvement has been realized. So that would also mean that this would be a topic that we can start our investigation. To help you with that investigation and also to help you utilize all the opportunities that are in our tool, We also identify the most valuable opportunities that we see based on the data. So here on the bottom, you already see that we have two quite valuable opportunities that we could investigate regarding making sure that the permits are ready on time and also making sure that all the material reservations are done in time. So there we already have a starting point of our discussion where Anna could have a meeting with Stefan, the process analyst, and they can start up the conversation. All right, this is what I see in the data. I see that the percentage is low. I see that there's also already some value opportunities that we can investigate. So please, let's start up the conversation, go into the process, and then see where we can realize our improvements. So going into the process, so this is our process explorer, where based on your source system or your actual data, we retrieve what is actually happening within the maintenance process. So here you see the maintenance notification, the start point of the whole process. So a maintenance notification is created, it's approved, and then we can start with creating the work order. And here we see the work order is created, and then we can schedule it, and the tasks are planned on the work order as well. And then we go into the material reservation. So if you remember, one of the opportunities was the materials. And here we see that the work order task make use of those materials to be able to complete the work order task. But then if we want to dive deeper into that specific material reservation, we can enable more processes in the Process Explorer, because those are things we're all tracking. So we're also tracking the material reservation object. We're tracking the purchase requisition object. So there we can really dive deeper into the process to see, all right, what is actually happening within that material reservation, and how can we explain what can be improved. So it's just refreshing. Bear with me one moment, because then I can enable the material reservation. And here we see something quite interesting. So after the work order task is created, the material is reserved for that work order. And here we see that there's two variants of the process happening. So we see one variant where the material reservation is going straight to the post-goods issue, which means that the goods are issued to the location where the work order task will be completed. So the material is there. That takes about 2 days on average. But we also see a different variant of the process happening, where it goes into the purchase requisition and then the post-goods receipt. So here we already see that there's two variants happening of our process, and that has quite a big impact on the throughput time of that process, because we see on the right-hand side, it takes on average 2 days if we don't need to procure the material, but it takes on average a bit over 9 days if we have to follow the procurement process, order the materials, and receive them, and then issue them to the location that will need them. So there we already see that by including related processes in our analysis, we get very valuable information to improve our work order task, or our work order process. So to improve our work order processes, we're not just looking at the work orders, the work order tasks. We're also looking at the materials, the purchase orders to see, all right, maybe that is a cause of work orders not being completed in time, as we see here. Having to order them takes a lot longer, and also this thus increases the risk of not being able to complete in time. So if Anna and Stefan had this conversation, they went through the process together, and they really had a clear understanding of, all right, this is something we want to work further on. We think there's a lot of improvement possible here. So let's further investigate and start with working out a plan to actually improve improve the KPI. Then I'm going into the process cockpit in the overview. So we saw the control tower already, which was really an overview. This is a bit more detailed and really for the process analyst. So this is not just an analytical part of our solution. It's also really the starting point for the analyst to start with improving the process itself. So what you see here is an overview with our 5 KPIs. So we see again the on-time completion, preventive maintenance, and schedule adherence, but we see 2 additional ones with the touchless work order rate and the cost per work order. So there we see additional KPIs that we're tracking. And also for every single one of those KPIs, we have a tab on the, or we have a detailed tab where we really track one specific metric. So here we go into the on-time completion detailed tab, where we see on top some general information regarding the work orders that we're tracking. So we're seeing in our data set, there's about 7,000 work orders. And the on-time completion rate, a bit on the right-hand side, is about 42%. So the same numbers as we saw in the overview, but this screen is way more detailed. So what we see below that is the opportunities. Yeah, these are predefined opportunities that you can work on, and they also display the impact they have on the metric. So what you see here, the first one is that has a scheduled date change. So those are work orders that were scheduled at a certain point in time, but then were rescheduled to an earlier or possibly a later date, and that caused them to not be completed on time. So you see there's about 1,100 work orders that had a scheduled date change. And for those 1,100 work orders, the on-time completion is even 22% lower than the 42. So that we see that it's happening quite often, and that it has a really big impact on the on-time completion. The same one for the unavailable stock materials. There we see that it applies to about 800 work orders, so a bit less, but the impact on the on-time completion is minus 20%. So also there we see that that this opportunity has a very big impact on the on-time completion. For those opportunities, we have detailed screens as well. So that could be a starting point, and I will show those in a bit. But first I want to finish this screen, because here we also have quite some detailed information regarding the work order and the on-time completion. So on the right-hand side, well, we see again the trend graph, and we see that there's not much improvement happening, not much is changing. And to further investigate that, we can really dive into this detailed screen, where we see in step 2 the context, where we have different dimensions which we can review and see, all right, maybe there's certain plants, what we're seeing here, performing better than others. And that could be a word to investigate why one plant has an on-time completion rate of 50%, which is one of our top performers, but other plants, well, one has only 17%. So that would be a good conversation to have to understand, all right, how can it be that some plants are performing really well, other plants are not performing too well, and there's anything we can learn from that, and anything we can improve for those plants. That was just an example for the plants. We have many different dimensions that we can track. This brings a lot of detail and a lot of insight in what is actually happening in the process, but also why are certain things happening. Then on the right-hand side, we see 2 more graphs, just to bring some more context. We see that there's a lot of scheduled date changes, and this brings insight in how those day changes are happening. Are they being postponed? Are they happening earlier? And how many days does the scheduled date change entail? And there we already see that, well, a lot of day changes are happening, and it's often that the work orders are scheduled later than initially scheduled, which of course brings the risk of that not being completed on time. Then we scroll down a bit, and we have the deep dive view. So here we really can go into the details of specific work orders with specific tasks. We can see what notifications were there, what materials were reserved for this work order, and we see what permits are planned on this work order. So here we really have a detailed view of everything that is happening on a specific work order, all other objects that are related to it, and all activities that have happened on it. So that was all really analytical. So we saw that we had an overview where we seen our most important KPIs. We've seen the Process Explorer, where based on our source data, the actual process is happening. And now here we've seen the detailed screen for the on-time completion, which is all to help you analyze how is my process going, where are my possible opportunities, where can we improve, and how can we realize those improvements. Then we're going into the part where we're going more to the operational part. So now we identified, all right, our on-time completion is too low. We have 2 opportunities that we can further investigate. And that would really be the starting point of Stefan to, together with the business, of course, to go into those opportunities and to see if those would could be realized and what would have to be done to realize those opportunities. So I've opened the stock material availability, which is one of the opportunities. And there we see that there's a lot of work orders, about 800, that had materials planned on it, but that were not in stock at the moment that we wanted to, or that we needed them, that we want to execute the work order. And here we see that, again, we can analyze certain dimensions. So, for example, we could go into specific equipment or specific materials and see how are they performing. And do we see here a difference in certain materials, for example, or certain equipment that is performing way lower, because that could help us understand why those materials are not on stock. So it's not just about seeing what is happening, but also understanding why it is happening. And then the next step is to actually solve the problem. And there, our solution already comes with some pre-built solutions that you can use. So, for example, we have an action flow created for your material safety stock optimization. So we analyze for the maintenance work orders all your data. We see what material is needed on those work orders, and we can help you improve to make sure that those materials will be in stock. So that's an action flow that we created specifically for maintenance materials. If you really want to go into the more broader inventory management, then of course Celonis has their own solutions. For example, the inventory management starter kit to really fully analyze your inventory part. Then going into the second opportunity, which is the scheduled date change. So there we saw that it's happening quite often that work orders are rescheduled, and they're often rescheduled to a later date, which of course brings the risk that they at one point will be too late. And here we see the detailed screen of that scheduled date change. We see, for example, that certain planner groups are being on time more often. We can also investigate specific scheduled date changes for a work order, because we see that for some work orders, date changes are happening more often, so more than once. And we see that quite some days are added. So we could go into detail to try to understand why that is happening by analyzing it ourselves. But also in the solution, there's already some pre-built root causes which are identified. And that is what we see here on the right-hand side. So we have material delivery delays. So out of the 1,100 work orders that had a scheduled date change, 900 of them had also materials that were delivered too late. So there we can see that this is probably one of the causes of the rescheduling happening. Materials are being delivered too late, so we can't start our work order task. We need to reschedule and start at a later point in time. Then, well, what can we do to improve on that, to have lower scheduled date changes and make sure that our materials are on time? For that, we created the Open Work Order Processing app, which is one of our operational apps, which is really created to help Leah, the maintenance planner, to complete their day-to-day activities and make sure that materials are ordered on time so that the work order can be completed on time. And that we see here. So what you see here is an operational app we have in our solution, which is really created to help maintenance planners in their day-to-day operations. What you see here is all the work orders that are currently open, but also all the statuses that we have defined to make sure that that work order can be scheduled, that the compliance is handled, that the permit is requested and approved in time, and also that the material is on time. So we have certain statuses that we're tracking, which will help you as a maintenance planner to make sure that your work order can be started and completed on time. And we see already that the system is also helping with some prioritization. We see that in this case on top, we have a work order which is minus 4 days to the scheduled date. So it's already overtime. And there the system is helping us to prioritize and see, all right, this is one work order we really need to focus on. We can go into that one, open it up. and then we can see what is happening on this work order and what needs to happen to make sure that it can be completed on time. So for this example, we see, well, there's a permit and approved close to the start date, and then we can create or we can take action by A, rescheduling the work order, or B, contacting the permit department to make sure that the permit will be there on time. And here we have several options how you would be able to complete such an action. Currently, this would be you press on a button, it will take you to the system to reschedule, or it will take you, for example, to Outlook to send an email. But there, a lot of automation can also be applied. So this would be an example of a human in the loop. So the human is really pressing the buttons. Once more automation is realized, we can also go to a human on the loop, where a lot of actions will be taken by the system itself, and the human is there on the loop just to track if everything is going correctly and to escalate in case that is needed. On top, you see also quite some other buttons that you can use and that we can configure. So you can go directly into the source system to change or to make changes to this work order. But we also have some buttons where you can send notifications to specific people in your organization where they can take action on this work order to make sure we can complete it in time. So then going back to the presentation, because we go to the recap of the solution, because what we saw for Anna, for maintenance VP, she wanted insights in the overall process performance. There we saw the control tower. So this was really the overview. We saw the KPIs, we saw the industry benchmarks, but we also saw the trends and the opportunities that were already identified by our solution. So this is really an overview to get insight in the overall process, but also help you start up the conversation on where improvement opportunities can be realized. Then we saw for Stefan, our process analyst, really, he was looking into execution gaps in the end-to-end process and possible ways to solve them. And for Stefan, we saw the process cockpit, where we saw a lot of analytical tools. So the process explorer, where you can really dive into what is actually happening in the process. But also we saw the detailed screen, for example, for the on-time completion, where there's a lot of opportunities already predefined, which really helps you to identify the root causes that might be causing, in this case, a low time on completion, but also what you can do to start those improvements. And then we had Leah, our maintenance planner. She really wanted to help in their day-to-day operation, so make sure that she had the latest information available. For that, we had the open work order processing app, where all the data is coming together. So not only the work orders and the work order tasks, but also the permits that were on there, the material reservations, and if they're on time, and also to help her take action on those work orders and really prioritize what needs their attention now and what can be done to solve it and make sure it's being completed on time. So thanks everyone. That was my demo. And then I'll hand over back to Marco.
Well, thanks for a clear demo, Tom. I hope that really our app came alive and that you also have an understanding what we can do. Looking also to the time, I think it's good to close the session, get to the recap. The 3 key takeaways that we had today. We built on the Celonis platform, so we ensure that your insights have real time, but also that our app is not set in stone. As Tom said, how we can deploy the app. We have a lot of pre-configured buttons, use cases for you, but we're not limited to it. So that flexibility really makes that the app can work for your company as well. Secondly, we have the industry expertise. We are in the maintenance and in the asset-intensive industries for all years. So that knowledge that we have is built in this app that you can use from day one. And last but not least, this combines in a fast time to value. So as Tom also said, those use cases are available, and together with you, we can do that X-ray instead of discussing what do we want to see. And this really helps you to not only see what we can improve, but also build solutions and make operational solutions to fix those gaps very soon. And you can trust us on our blue eyes, but luckily we also have clients that we did work together with and deployed our apps. And one of our success stories is that we have a global manufacturer on which we identified $20 million plus based with a starter kit, based on the use case we defined over there. And together we rolled out the open work order app to really close that gap and get to the value realization of it. Also, a nice quote that I really like to share is we spent 5 months on a custom POV to end up with covering just use cases. So it can, for instance, be on-time completion, while our app has 20 of them. So their comment was, we should have just gone with the app from start to make it successful. And this was a VP and head of asset management and then manufacturer customer in the EMEA. So if you're interested, I think it's good to look to the next steps. So when we start deploying our apps, this is the general flow that we follow. First of all, we do an introduction. Well, I think today is already the first get to know each other. But of course, we really want to go into deep dive or share this with other colleagues if necessary. Optionally, we can do a technical intake. So if you have questions whether or not this app could work on your source systems or in your data, we're happy to do the check with you. The third step would be a discovery workshop, and in my opinion, this is really the most important one. And here we really bring what our app can do and what your business demands together. So what's the goal of the discovery workshop? We have validated and prioritized objectives. We have defined the success criteria of the implementation, and we propose and proof and requirements such that we can do a planner step and go to a go, no-go decision, whether or not to continue. Last steps would then be executive alignment. So what are the agreements that we need to do? And hopefully we can get to the initiative project where we'll start deploying our apps. So this brings us to the last part of the session, being the Q&A. Feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A section of the tool. In the meantime, we prepared some questions that we obtained in previous webinars. So I would like to invite Tom back to the stage because as the expert, he can hopefully answer all of them.
Thank you.
So Tom, the first question I have is, I have a homegrown system. Does it work with Celonis in your plant maintenance solution?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, we see this quite often in practice already. So as long as we can extract the data, it's somewhere stored where we can access it. We can help it map it to our standard maintenance objects, like the work order task, and really make it compatible also with your homegrown data.
All right.
And if you want to make sure if your specific source systems are functioning for us as well, we can always have a technical intake session to do that check.
Makes sense. All right. I want to buy it. How can I do that?
Yeah. Well, like with all Celonis processes and premium apps, we work with a license structure. So included in the license are the app usage, but also future updates to ensure the latest Celonis feature. So as a team, we're working on developing the app as well. And we can also provide technical and success support. So yeah, if you have additional use cases, we're also happy to co-innovate together. So you also see new solutions being added to the platform as well.
Here. Do I need to be a Celonis expert to implement and use your app?
No. For installing and configuring the app, yeah, we see several options. We can do it ourselves, but also we can support you or your Celonis team to do the implementation, or we can work with with an existing Celonis service provider. So the app itself is as much as possible self-explanatory. So with a bit of training in Celonis Academy, your end user should be ready to go.
Lovely. And then I think last but not least, instead of maintaining plants, I perform maintenance in the field. Would this app work?
Yeah, well, as long as your goal is optimizing work order execution, this app should work. However, to better support the use cases really in the field, we developed a sister app. So it's closely aligned to our plant maintenance app. That's the Field Service Navigator. And we're happy to tell you about that in a separate session if you're interested in that solution.
Very well. Last, I think this is really the last one. How long does it take to install the app?
And that depends on the situation, of course, but we see for companies that are already using Celonis, it can be happening within 2 weeks. If you're new to Celonis, it takes some more time, but we expect to have insights within a month. assuming no major delays in the source system and admins. But within a month, you should have the first results.
Right. Well, I would say let's buy it.
Thank you.
Then we get to the end of this webinar because I do not see any questions in the Q&A further. Thanks for joining us today. I hope this gives a glimpse of what you can do. Instead, we're very happy to align with you further to discuss some in-depth questions, or if you want to have some other use cases demonstrated. As said, as well here on the slide, we're looking forward to join forces. And here you can find also the link where you can contact us. Thanks again, and hopefully we speak to each other soon. Have a great day.